All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the Strength Club podcast. It happens sometime in the lunar cycle. We haven't figured it out in particular yet when the shows are going to happen. Basically, the shows happen when we get videos from our dear viewers, like Marco Rubio here. He had sent in a video a few weeks ago with a squat. We sent in some corrections, and then he has sent in some new ones for us to check in on. The premise of this show, it's been going for a few years now with my lovely co-host Mick. Is we do form checks. We do talks on programming. We do talks on technique. We do talks on basically everything. There's even a lot of diet work in there. I think the YouTube channel has a few hundred videos. Do you know how many videos the YouTube channel has, Mick?
Many, many hundreds.
Many, many hundreds. So somewhere between
Multiple hundreds.
somewhere over 100 and under 900
We
is what we're
have
looking
probably more videos than subscribers.
for. No, there's no way.
Close
No,
to.
we've been chipping around the 2,000 block for quite some time.
For the last
Um,
4 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. Our subscriber count was like really linearly increasing, and then we started talking about bad things, and then it flatlined. Um, but all right. So my name is Alex Kasari. I'm a starting strength coach. I teach judo, jujitsu, and wrestling. I'm in the Northern Virginia/DC area. I do a lot of online coaching as well. I would say my specialty is really programming for people who do sports like me. I've been meeting actually in the past, I think, month and a half. I've met 4 people from the DC area. To get some in-person coaching. A few of them actually watch the show, which is nice. What seems to be the trend is that people will find me through the Starting Strength coaching directory when they're looking up their sports, they're looking up the DC area, and then they'll check out this show and they'll be like, "Oh, I watched your show," and I'll be like, "That's crazy! 5 people have watched it." And then I'll meet them and show them how to lift weights. But yeah,
And
so
now
that's a little bit about
proudly
me.
proudly sponsored by xenosystems.com.
Oh, you can actually read. That's a good
Xenosystems,
resolution.
what is that?
Xenosystems is a book by, this is going to be a lot of words, so don't roll your eyes. He's a philosopher named Nick Land, and then his book was recently republished by Passage Press. Look up Xenosystems if you guys are into esoteric right wing philosophy. Um, yeah, don't linger on that too much, Mick, because that's not. It's a
Is
good
this,
hat though.
is this hat going to get us like black band again? We're going to get a strike because of this hat? Out
Don't
of all
wear
the
it
things we've
to
said.
don't wear it to parties where people are really into philosophy. That's all I would say. That's all I would say.
Uh, it
Yeah,
looks like you looks
Nick
like
Land.
you looks like you work in Silicon Valley for a company called Xenosystems. That's what it looks like.
I could, yeah, yeah. But all right, so we have videos to get through. We have, I think, 8 or 9 videos to get through today. Me and my lovely co-host Mick are going to go through those. This is
This is Marco. So this is the video he sent us a couple of weeks ago, which we reviewed already, but
got
thought
it.
it'd be good to see the before and after. So he says, "Hi guys, widened my stance like you said, and tried to actively keep my chest down while pushing up with the hips and keeping the knees out. I had to lower the weight like 20% or else the form breaks down. The squat feels much more stable and equally distributed. Still looks a bit high though. Maybe when the weight gets heavier, it will correct all on its own. All the best, Marco Antonio Rubio."
Thank you, Secretary of State. Yeah, so this was the before video. The stance was a little bit narrow. The squat was a little bit high, and then he's staying relatively too vertical. So we basically just kind of needed to do more or just apply more of all of the normal cues that we give. So when we're teaching someone the squat, we're saying, hey, we really need you to lean over. We really need you to shove your knees out. We need a sufficiently wide stance so that your torso could squat between your legs, and then you drive your ass up on the way up. That's kind of like the general gist, the 2-second version of the starting strength squat. And then we just kind of need to apply more of all of that. Thank you. Okay, so he's taking some plates off the bar. He's wearing the exact same outfit. He's in the exact same rack. This is really good for comparison's sake. But the camera is a little bit higher now, so that's always tricky with depth. And then, gentlemen, when you're filming your squats at home, you want them to be around right at waist height because it makes the guesswork around depth significantly easier. When it's like a little bit top down, it's trickier. You have to use more context clues to see where depth is. And if it's too low, it can be deceiving. And then, you can think you're at depth when you're actually not. So his stance looks wider, which is good. The toe angle is a little bit more severe. Upper back position is fine. I'm nervous. Let's see how this goes. There's a lot of prep between rep 1. Depth was good. He's not leaning over enough. Yeah, so he essentially is just staying probably like 10-ish degrees too vertical the entire time. So if he was a little bit more leaned over, depth would be more secure, and then it would allow you to facilitate more hip drive. When you stay this vertical, driving the hips is weird because essentially there's like so much of an incline that the torso has to go through. Whenever you do drive the hips up, it can be relatively subtle. It's just not, the feeling just really isn't there. Yeah, I think the big thing here is going to be leaning over more, and then it may not feel, Marco. It may not feel like you can lean over more because of the upper back and grip position. So you may have to play around with that in order to be comfortable leaning over. Okay, so when a lot of people are like, I can't lean over anymore in the squat, I'll die. The bar will roll up on my neck. Then you have to sort of interrogate the upper back position and the grip position. The bar, someone could argue it's a little bit too low, but it's about like the purposes, or how it's functioning for its purpose. So like if the bar is secure and you can lean over sufficiently, don't really care where it is. But if the bar is preventing you from leaning over, or the bar's position is preventing you from leaning over, then it's an issue. Yeah. So on that one, for example, there was the tiniest bit of hip drive, and then he pulled his chest up. If you play that last rep again, Mick. All right there, tiny bit of hip drive, and then now it's all pulling his chest up. Yeah. So a drill that you can do for this, Marco, is that if you watch our teaching progression, so like any of the videos that we have for teaching the squat on the YouTube channel for starting strength, you'll see they do a body weight squat. They put their just hit my mic. They'll put their hands together like this. They'll squat down and they'll have their elbows inside of their knees, and then they'll ask the person to kind of squat up from there. What you can do is keep your elbows physically connected to your knees, and then just push your butt up, right? And then you'll feel like if this is your head and this is your hips, right? Your elbows are here, your elbows will stay connected to your knees, and then your hips will just do this. You'll get really flat, like a table. Okay. So head is here, your elbows are connected to your knees. You'll push your hips up, right? That's the hip drive concept we're looking for. So what you're doing is you're doing like the tiniest amount of hip drive, and then you're pulling your chest up, and the bar gets really slow. What we want is for you to go up, 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 hips all the way up through the finish, and the chest coming up is like the last 10% of the squat. So those are better in some ways, but you still are sort of missing the primary theme for the hip drive itself. Um, Probably more direct coaching would be helpful for you. So see if you can get to a starting strength coach directory in person. They'll fix it in 5 minutes, or reach out to online coaching for someone. Who do we got next, Mick?
We have Dale. We've actually got a bunch of videos for this guy.
Ooh, Dale,
You,
that's high.
you'll be excited about one of the videos, I think.
Oh, of course. I'm just an excited guy in general, so it's
Yeah,
not hard.
we have two squat videos. He's got a like a one rep max video as well. I thought you probably want to check
Okay.
out the.
So that
Check.
was a very easy set of 5. He's trying. This is another thing where he's like trying to do all of the things, but he's just a little bit high because the stance is too narrow, because he's got a lot of junk in the trunk, a lot of junk in the belly. Um, yeah. Some people who are built like this, you can sort of think that they're overextending their back, but they may or may not actually be. This is kind of something you'd have to see a little bit closer, or see some different viewing angles for. He may be overextending his back a little bit, or focusing too much on the back extension. But the big
Oh,
thing here is depth.
okay. I
What
got
were you
some
going to say,
notes.
Mike?
I got some notes. He
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
he said he's 5'9", 235 pounds. He has an
Mm-hmm.
issue with his low back SI joint on the right hand side. Currently doing a 4-day split on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, e.g. M upper, W lower, F upper, M lower, right, lower upper lower, whatever.
Okay,
Had
so
an issue
he's
with
doing
my
lower, upper, lower.
yeah, had an issue with my back since having a car accident, which led to a 30-pound weight gain. Did he?
So the
Did he?
car crashed into
Yeah,
his Veggie
yeah,
Factory.
yeah. I think so.
The car crashed into a McDonald's. Okay, yeah. So I think a lot of the back irritation is likely. So if you're, and again, like if he didn't mention his lower back being irritated, you don't want to like psyop the person into being like, hey, you're going to get back pain if you do this, because there's a bunch of people, particularly a lot of more flexible women, including myself. I'm not in that category, but I'm just very limber, who can really extend the hell out of their lower back, and then it just doesn't irritate them. It's just kind of the thing. For some people, this amount of lower back extension can irritate their lower back on the squat. So I would widen your stance up, and then think about tucking your ribs down. So like if you stand up straight, and then if you sort of like push your fingers under your floating ribs, like right here, and then think, I'm going to crunch down on my fingers. I'm going to push my fingers out from my ribs. I'm going to pull my abs down to my belly. All of those things like this. Essentially, you're in this position here. We want your ribs to disappear. We want you to go right there, and then tuck all your abs down. Can you put the video back up, Mick, so I can keep watching? Mick, homie, thank you.
Sorry.
Um, But yeah, so that overextension, most people are really concerned about the position of the back. We don't want a ton of extension. We just want neutral, right? Because the spine doesn't need to go through flexion and extension during the squat. All it needs to do really is just remain neutral, and the movement is happening about your hip, right? So the torso, we want to think it's one rigid unit, and then it's your femur moving about your pelvis. That's actually the point of articulation. Okay, so think about tucking your ribs down or almost squeezing the front of your belt. Frankly, I would probably ditch the belt for a little bit. That way you can learn that lower back position because, if your lower back is hurting on all of this, chances are you are overextending your back. I don't mean overextending as in like a clinical amount where it's like, oh, okay, you're past this amount of degrees, so it's hyperextension. It's more like you're overextending it for what your symptom panel is, right? So if you didn't have any back irritation, I wouldn't say you were overextending your back, but because you do, you're overextending your back. Um, this is the 1 rep max.
Yep.
Yeah. Did that look like a 1 rep max to you?
Let me watch it again. No, that was
No.
way. That was
Mm-mm.
like a
Yeah. That's
okay.
probably 4 reps in reserve.
Yeah.
I think four. Yeah. Yeah. I think three would be a little bit too cheap. Yeah. I think you can probably hit that first set of five.
Yep.
Um, Yeah. So I would still ditch the belt. This one had the exact same issues. So like if this looked significantly different than the 225 or 100 kilo squats, then I would say, okay, we have different kind of problems to deal with, or this is actually pretty hard. It's the same exact form. There was no deviations. There was barely any deviations of bar speed. So this is still a really high or far from failure set. So low RPE, high reps in reserve, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So I would say widen the stance up, stop overextending your back, tuck your ribs down, and then be more patient at the bottom. You would be a good person for doing some pause squats. So pause squats, be really secure in that bottom position, feel what your lower back is feeling, and then kind of use that as like your radar and your antennas to see what's right and see what's wrong. Because if you're let's say you drop another 2 or 3 inches down, you're at the correct depth, and then all of a sudden your back is being irritated, start playing around with your lower back position. So more extended, more flexed, relatively neutral. 90% of the time, neutral is going to be what you're looking for. Um, yeah, so that's where I would go from there. Like we were saying with Marco, the upper back position may or may not be helping or hindering you, right? So if you start going deeper and standing wider, and you're like, all right, now the bar is moving, okay, maybe put your thumbs around the bar, maybe bend your wrist a little bit more, maybe change your grip up, right? So don't think that you have to keep the same exact grip when you're doing these other technical changes. Um, yeah, so I would just focus getting a little bit deeper, standing a little bit wider, stop overextending your lower back. And then best of luck on the weight loss stuff, because it's tricky. Um, for some people, it's very easy, but I think if it's 30, what did he say, 25 or 35 pounds? What did he say?
30.
30, yeah, so right in the middle, yeah. So 30 pounds of relatively rapid weight gain. That indicates a really broad behavioral change. So you may have went from like walking 40 minutes a day and then eating relatively healthy, let's say at lunch, like when you're at work, like you have a salad, to all of a sudden not walking and then you're eating, McDonald's for lunch. Like 30 pounds is a pretty significant amount of weight gain. If that happened over like 3 years, for example, that would be pretty, gradual because you're at like 10 pounds a year. But if it was 30 pounds recently, let's say, like under 10 months, under a year, really, that's super rapid weight gain and is concerning. You should intervene on that as immediately as you can because that's indicative of like very broad behavioral changes. And it could be, like car accident, got depressed, everything feels like shit, you're in a lot of pain, try to eat your way out of the hole. But get on that because otherwise that can spiral really quickly. So,
Is this is. Do you want Dale's got a power clean or a deadlift? Which one do you want to see next?
let's see the deadlift because if he's been having lower back issues, I would like to see the deadlift more than the power clean.
All right, I'll be back.
Your gym looks very similar to Marco's, Dale. I would like to see a different angle from this on the side, um, to see what your lower back is doing at the top. So I think you may be cranking your lower back into a little bit more extension at the top lockout. So it's understandable if you're like, hey, I'm getting lower back irritation when I'm trying to finish up my deadlifts. Um, you may just want to explore having a more neutral spine the entire time. Like you're doing a great job of back extension. Like no one can doubt that you can keep your back extended and flat, but sometimes too much is too much, particularly if you're getting, lower back irritation. The setup distance is good. I think your head may be cranked up a little bit too much. Like these are really clean pulls. I would essentially just want to play around with the last 5% of the deadlift. Okay. So we need the hips to lock out, we need the knees to lock out, and we need your shoulders to be slightly behind the bar. So it should feel like at the top of the deadlift, you can stand there for like a solid 4 to 5 seconds, just as long as your grip holds out. And since you have straps on, it should feel like you can stand there for, 30 seconds. Okay. If the top of the deadlift feels like a sensitive position that you're going to pop out of or you can't maintain, that typically means that something is wrong. And then normally for my lifters, that means that something is going, weird with lower back extension. Some people think they have to sort of like crank backwards, push their crotch forward, extend their lower back more. If we think about kind of what the lower back is doing the entire time. And we think about, kind of like these vertebrae with discs in between them. Okay, they're loaded. We just want to keep them really rigid. We don't actually want them to sort of flex and extend through the whole thing. So, like, if you're at lockout and you have all this weight in your hands, and then your hips are locked out and your knees are locked out, and then you just decide to extend more, that can be really irritating. Like, you just don't need to extend more. Okay, so again, like the points of articulation are the knees and the hips meaning, your pelvis and your femur. Okay. The lower back is not a point of articulation for all of this. We want the lower back to remain as rigid as it possibly can. So I would recommend thinking that same sort of cue set. So trying to almost like hide your belly, do a little bit of a crunch, pulling your ribs down, grabbing the front of your belt with your belly, all of those sorts of cues. Extend your lower back less. Just focus on extension less in general. Like it's going to feel different, right? And it's not going to be blanket advice for everybody. Most people are in the other camp where they really have to focus on extension. That's the only thing that they can focus on, or the only thing they should focus on. Whereas we just have to, sort of follow your response, right? So, like, if you were getting lower back pain when your back was rounded, we would tell you to extend it. If you're getting lower back pain and irritation whenever your back is super extended, we're going to tell you to pull it back a little bit. That's generally what navigating around pain is. We just sort of find what's irritating and then we stop doing it. It's not, a statement as to something being good or bad. In this situation, the deadlift is fine, probably about 2 reps in reserve. It didn't look super heavy for you. You're extending the height of your lower back and you're getting SI joint irritation. That's an indicator that, either the systemic stress is too high, so you may be running the programming really hard. If you're doing upper lower, you may want to spread that out a little bit more because you have 4 workout slots, and then you're putting all of your lower body volume onto 2 of those days. You may want to more evenly distribute that. That way, you can sort of recover more evenly through all 4. Um, so, like certain muscle groups, I find they do better with different recovery windows. And then you can say muscle groups, you can say movements. They're really the same thing. It doesn't really matter. But if you're seeing that, like the spike of stress is really irritating your symptoms when you're doing 2 lower body workouts a week, just try to melt that stress across all of the days. And then you may say, hey, that means I'm not getting, let's say, a full recovery window because I'm doing a little bit of something every day. That's fine. You'll get used to it, but that may be what you need to lower symptoms. Okay. So it may be something where, let's say, like first day of the workout, you do like a moderate pulling variation. Second day of the workout, you do a hard squat. Third day of your workout scheme, you do a harder pull. Fourth day, you do a lighter squat. That way, like essentially you have like the stress would just kind of look like a bell curve. The middle of your week is relatively stressful, but it's divided by a rest day. And then on the tail ends, you have relatively less stress. Um, some people do really well with like a front loaded week where like the beginning of their week, the first 2 workouts of their cycle is really stressful and then the stress calms down. Other people do well who need a little bit more of a recovery time, or a little bit more of a ramp up, excuse me. They do well with the backloaded week. So like the first 2 workouts, you're doing lighter or more moderate variations. And then the last 2 workouts of the week, you're doing your relatively harder variations. And then some people do better with it being super flat across the entire way. So those are the things that you need to play around with, like if you had elbow pain, it would be the same thing. Like it's not any different because it's lower back pain in particular. You just need to think, how can I manage this through my programming and my form? Mick, are you back yet? Oh, he's back.
Oh yeah, I'm back.
Oh, he's back. His bladder is empty. He's ready to go. It's nice to see some power cleans. You're hanging over the bar a little bit too much. Widen your grip out. This basically you've taken exactly your deadlift stance and your deadlift grip. The deadlift stance is fine, but I would widen your grip a little bit more. Give yourself a little bit more room. Your back extension looks better here without the belt. So I'm curious to see if these were irritating on your back for you or not. I would say focus on the jump more. This is really you're just craning this fucker up with the back. The triple or the third extension, the third pull, whatever the hell you want to call it, whenever your knees dip back under the bar, you really need to focus on that. So if we look at our teaching progression, whenever the bar is at the jump position and your knees are now forward of the bar, everything is cocked and ready to go. That's the part that you need to focus on, I would say. Because it's really fast off the floor and then it's slowing down once it gets to that position. You want to think fast, fast, faster, right? So the bar should be accelerating and it almost hits its peak acceleration as you're attempting to jump, whereas yours is the other way around. It's the fastest off the floor and then it gets slower over time. My cleans look a lot like this, and I think it's the same thing. It's too much back. Um, Hips sometimes can be a little bit too high. You're craning over the bar a little bit too much. Um, yeah, play around with like setting up slightly farther away, getting your knees more in the game. And it's not saying the hips should lower, the knees should be more forward. It's just so that you get a different feeling for it. So like try to overcorrect, and then your pendulum will swing back to the middle eventually. But these are a decent start. These are a really decent start. So like good on you for doing your cleans, absolutely. And I'm curious about how you're programming this in with your deadlifts and your squats. So like if you're doing a 4-day split with 2 lower body days, I wonder if you're just squatting on one day and then another day you're doing deadlifts and power cleans. Because that amount of volume may be the irritant. So it could be something where like, hey, you want to move in, deadlifts and a light squat, and then the other day you're doing squats and a power clean. Okay. So let me know how you're distributing your volume. That's probably the most important thing related to your back pain. Okay. What else we got, Mick?
We have Keone with no notes whatsoever. So
Keone, how do you
Keone,
spell that name?
Keoni.
Damn.
I reckon we've had this guy on before.
I've never seen him.
Yeah, no. If this is his second time submitting a squat, and we gave him some feedback last time, then could be some issues there.
Okay, so some of these reps are starting to flirt with depth. I think squat shoes would really help you, Keone. So they have a raised heel, they have that strap across the middle. Um, yeah, I would look into some squat shoes for sure. The stance is good. It seems like it's sufficiently wide, and the toes are pointed out. The bar is riding a little bit high on your back, but that's not the bottleneck right now. We just sort of need to change your mental model for where your form is. You're staying relatively too upright right now. So we need you leaning over and holding the knees back. And then all of that also means the butt goes backwards as well. Okay, so we need your butt to go backwards in space behind your heels. And then so you stay balanced and don't fall backwards, your torso needs to lean over at the same time. Okay, so all three of these cues are the same cue. Lean over. Leaning over means butt back. Butt back means holding your knees back, and then you can work your way back up as well. So holding your knees back means your butt goes backwards. Your butt going backwards means that you have to lean over. So all three of those cues, think about them at the same time. Another way to think about this is you're pushing your pecs down in between your heels. Okay. So if I said right in between your feet, you may still be able to lean forward, stay relatively vertical. But in this situation, push your pecs in between your heels. It means everything has to go backwards at the same time. Um, these are really close to being good. You probably can fix this without deloading significantly. So if this is 185, I would put like 165 on the bar. Um, do some pause reps. You are basically doing pause reps right now, anyways. And then just feel at that position, and then add it to your Christmas wish list of getting some squat shoes. That would help you tremendously. Yeah, these are close to being good. This is like a 10-minute fix in real life. Probably a few sessions online. Yeah, these are really close. We're seeing hip drive coming out of the bottom. The other thing I would say is it doesn't seem like you're bracing very much at all. So you need to actually take a big mouth inhale in, and I should see your rib cage expand and then contract. So if it looks like nothing is happening on the front of your body, then that's an indicator that you're not really bracing that much. Um, yeah, these look super easy, and then, like, the tiny picky thing to finish would be you wanna bounce out of the bottom, you don't wanna pause, but you'd kinda figure that out eventually on your own, for instinct self-preservation. When it gets really hard, if you're doing that tiny accidental pause, you'll start bouncing out on your own, but yeah, you may intentionally be pausing, but we don't know because the notes weren't there. But these are pretty solid start, so, not too much to fix there.
Okay, we have Yan Bin.
Dude,
Uh,
Yan Bin.
Could go lower by additional 5%, but not sure why I didn't. Noticed unstable forward leaning on the fourth rep. Need guidance. Senpai, guidance.
That was like super. I love those notes. Those are crisp notes.
Should I do it in an Asian accent, or will that help
No,
you?
no, he may be Finnish actually. He's
No,
who
no, but
knows where he
he's
is.
well. He might be.
He might be. Yeah. So you look quite tall, which is nice. Good for you. Congratulations. Um, Yeah, so the way that you want to think, just a general note, because whenever people do exercise like this, where they just sort of are pumping out reps, they do it on all of their lifts. So he's doing curls this way, he's doing his chin ups this way, he's probably doing his bench and his deadlifts this way. Um, you want each rep to be discreetly as clean and controlled and as quality as it can be. So if you're going like rep, 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 it's too fast. You don't have time to reset. You don't have time to think. You don't have adjustments that you need to make. Okay. Even lifters who are technically perfect, they do not pump out reps like this. Okay. Um, and if you're doing like a super light set for bodybuilding purposes and it's very dialed in, you can, but that's a little bit different. In this situation, you're squatting. When you're squatting, when you're doing any of the bar, pretend you're acting as if it is like 200 pounds heavier than it is. So, could you have this rep tempo with 365 on the bar? Absolutely not. You would die. Okay. So, if there was 365 on the bar, you would take it seriously. You would brace in between each rep. You would take a second. You would control the descent. You would find the bottom and then come back out. It would be a slower tempo overall because you need to control it because it's 200 pounds heavier. If a weight is really light, you can get away with bullshit like this. And this is just sort of bad in general, Ian Ben. So form wise, we basically just have to change everything. You are basically doing like a high bar bodybuilding squat, but you're still missing a lot even from that form. So you need to widen your stance so that you can go sufficiently low. It's not like 5%. We need you going as low as possible. We need you to go significantly lower. Okay. And then second to that, we need you to now lean over. Okay. So like these reps, these could stand to be 4 or 5 inches lower. Like, with your build, relatively short legs, really long torso. It's a beautiful build for squatting. A lot of the Asian lifters, all of the Asian Olympic weightlifters have the same build. It's amazing. It's a work of art whenever they're doing front squats. You can stand to get really low, and you should just lean into that and allow it. But you need to widen the stance up, lean over more, ride it all the way down. Okay, your head is going to come down as well. So right now you're looking straight ahead. What you want to do is hide the wall in front of you. You want to look down. So if you have a hat on, like I have, for example, I shouldn't be able to see the wall in front of me at all. I should only be able to see the floor. Okay. So chin down, nose down, hat down, lean over, and then all of the same cues that we were saying to Keone. Okay. So lean over, butt back, knees back, that whole sort of system. It's really the same cues here. Um, I would say the big thing is going to be widening the stance. That's going to feel a little bit different, and then I would probably just do pause squats for a while because you're so used to this sort of fast, bouncy rep tempo that intentionally pausing, slowing it down. You're pausing at the top, you're pausing at the bottom. That would be really good for you. And this weight is super light. You could probably hit this for 20, unironically, for 20 reps if you wanted to. So you don't need to take weight off the bar to do these with a pause. You can just stay at the same exact weight, do your paused reps, fix your form, and then increase weight from there. And then, like I was saying, check in on all of your other lifts, because if you are doing your squats with this sort of tempo, the chances are that your form is weird on the rest of your lifts with that same tempo, and that's bad. Um, any other notes from you, Ben?
No,
Or
nothing.
videos, excuse me.
No, that's the only one. Send us your other videos, Yan Bin, and we'll take a look at them.
hmm I can't tell if this gym is just really deep or if that's a mirror and then we're just seeing like the reflection and it
No,
just kind of looks like it's
I
long
think
as shit.
it's a big gym. I reckon he's. I can't imagine this is somewhere in Asia. I've never seen a gym this
Right,
big in
because that
Asia.
amount of space. Yeah,
Yeah,
let
no,
us know where you're at, Ian Ben.
this is like Australia or the US or maybe Canada or
Okay.
somewhere. Yeah.
In Aussie.
Hmm. All right, we have an old friend of the show, Stephen Lusaint. Do you remember this guy? He was the one that we were gonna get chased and him to do a buddy cop movie. Remember this guy?
Oh, he's in an actual gym now. Oh, thank
Yeah,
the
he used to be
Lord.
in his basement. So he said, "Hi Mick, hope you and the crew are doing well. Hit a lifetime PR to an early 2000s crunk song in the background."
Based as hell, man. Nice.
Jeez. 5 plate bench. Nice one.
4.
Is it
Is that
4?
4 or 5? I think that's 4.
It's 4. You're right. It's 4.
Right. Yeah, a casual 500-pound bench for fast fives like that, that'd be pretty cool.
I mean,
Um,
4 plate for that speed's pretty cool too.
Steven, glad to see this. I remember back in the day, it would be like 365 singles. We saw some like, I think the last one I saw was like a 385 single or maybe a double. So thank you for checking in. That's pretty great. And then also send us the rest of your lifts. I'm curious about how everything is doing now that you're out in a gym again and not in the basement with those safeties that were going to kill you. Yeah, I think you could probably do with more time resetting at the top, frankly. So it's like you're getting an excellent heave out of the bottom, you're getting an excellent bounce out of the bottom. So, dear viewers, if you're seeing it and you're like, okay, well, how is he getting a bounce out of the bottom, even if it's physically staying stationary for a fraction of a second? It's because it is compressing his chest. And then, so that one, it was a fast bounce. It's starting to slow down slightly. Let's find the rep. There's a little bit of a pause there where he heaved it up, which is excellent. A little bit of a pause. He heaves it up. Okay, yeah, so that last rep, if you could replay that last rep right at the bottom, that'd be great. Right here. So that's beautiful. That's how I want every one of my lifters bench reps to look. The bar compresses their chest, they pull the bar into their chest, and then everything explodes up at the same time. So their chest is extending, their chest is expanding, they're driving their legs into the ground, they're heaving everything up. Beautiful. You can make all of your reps look like that. Okay. And then you'll probably have a little bit of a better time of it. If you're just turning around the early reps with just your arms, you may be fatiguing faster than you need to. If you ride that bounce down and then heave on every rep, that'll be really great. Take like 365 out and just practice it. You can probably hit that for sets of like 8 or 9 at this point. So think just like pulling the bar in, heave, pull the bar in, heave. That'll really help the leg drive out. I didn't really mind these outside of the rep tempo. Like there were some reps where you didn't fully reset at the top, but otherwise these are wonderful. Yeah, super happy to see that.
Would you say his hips are coming off the bench or his butt's coming off the bench?
Who gives a shit?
You don't care?
No, not at all. What's someone going to be like? Ugh, I'm stronger than you now because your hips came off the bench. Like it's fine. Like this is a training bench. So like if you're in a powerlifting competition, tone it down a little bit, and then your butt will stay on the bench. But in training, like if you're, the first 3 reps are really strict, and the last 2 reps, the butt comes off the bench a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, so like you're kind of like honing in and developing the athletic ability to heave and to move this big weight around. The butt coming off the bench a little bit, it's not really the end of the world. It's not like a squat where, let's say, for example, you're squatting to depth and then you add 10 pounds, you squat a little bit higher, you add 15 pounds, you squat a little bit higher, so on and so forth. It's not really like that. There's 2 ways to think about heaving on the bench. If the person is lifting their butt prematurely, so the bar is coming down and they start lifting their butt, they're going to shorten the range of motion because they're lifting their chest up. So they want the chest to hit earlier and then they stay in that bridge. Okay. That is just cheating because you're just shortening the range of motion. That would be the same thing as squatting high. If you are in the situation like, he was in, he's pulling the bar down and then on the later reps, his butt is popping off the bench an inch. He didn't shorten the range of motion. He's still doing a shit ton of work. I don't care. It's totally fine. If someone is doing that and they're benching 155, that's an issue. Correct it. If he's doing this to push through a PR set at 405, that's totally fine. It'll be cleaner when he's benching 435. So when his set of 5 or 4 is 435, 405 will be cleaner. I was just saying this to one of my in-person clients recently. They were really focused in on what their back extension looked like at like PR weights. And it's like, yeah, you want to think about it. You want to focus on your back extension all the time, but you don't expect it to be perfect on a PR. You expect it to be perfect on a good training weight at like 85%, yeah. So it's more the intent. Like Steven is not raising his ass on purpose to shorten the range of motion. So he's still doing a great heave. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. That was the last video for today. So
Amazing.
if
Just put that
you
bench back up so I can see it again, please. I just want to look at it. It was so nice. Yeah, this is great. All right, we'll do the outro for this. If you want to get videos on the show, email support@strength.club. You can submit them through the wonderful Starting Strength app. All of the people who I have met recently in the Northern Virginia area. They're like, "Oh, I was using the app. I really liked it. It encouraged me to get into it more." Yeah, so I'm passing the good word on to Mick. All the people love your app. One thing that's funny is that many people have been using it for like years, and I'll be like, "Oh, how long have you been using the app for?" And they'll be like 3 years. I'm like, "Why?" It's starting strength. You're supposed to do this once. But I think what I've realized is that most people, when they attempt it, they do some version of starting strength like 8 times, and then they branch out afterwards. Um, so if you're watching this, if you're relatively new, send in videos, do the NLP right, do it once, and you'll be fine. Reach out to me for online coaching. Love online coaching. I'm amazing at programming. And then if you're in the DC area, Northern Virginia area, kind of Baltimore area, or not Baltimore, Maryland area, DMV, let me know. I'm available for in-person coaching as well. Mick, do you have anything to say to the lovely viewers?
No, all good. Just yep, keep submitting videos through the apps because we only do them when we get enough videos. So if you don't send videos, we
Mm-hmm.
don't do these videos. So yeah, keep
Yeah.
keep submitting.
Yeah,
We
Yan
will.
Bin could have squatted that 2 weeks
Well,
ago now, and
that's
he's just been
right.
floundering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, keep submitting your videos. We love to get them. So that's about it.
Okay. All right. See you, everybody.
Excellent. Bye.